So
Yeah.
this is the Bible I bought. This is a Pew
Yeah.
Bible.
Standard
It's
Pew
just a
Bible. Yeah.
small $6 thing. I put tabs in it
Yep.
because as I went through it, I started to do forensic statement analysis on the Gospels.
Hmm.
And what that really is just looking at so I bought this Bible because this pastor said, "Hey, Jesus is smart."
Yeah.
And I'm reading through the Gospels. And I'm like, "Oh, wow,
And you were
there,
leaving the church, like so you just grabbed the Bible that
no,
day.
I didn't buy it right away. So maybe a couple of weeks afterwards. I mean, I wasn't going every week. I just went this
Yeah.
one time. Okay.
So God
And
dealt
then
with you weeks later. Wow.
yeah, it's a couple of weeks later before I went back, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. And then it was hit and miss for a while, because I wasn't
Yeah.
like in it. But I did buy a Bible.
Hmm.
And I was looking at the Gospels, and what I struck me right away was the differences between the Gospels. Because if you've ever worked eyewitness accounts,
Yep.
they are different. They
Yeah.
vary based on a couple of different things that are true about eyewitnesses. This is why
Yeah.
jurors, for example, can look at the exact same evidence and come to two different conclusions because we don't
Yeah.
just focus on the things. We have a lot of baggage we bring in, our
Yeah.
presuppositions, our likes, our dislikes, our histories, the
Yeah.
things that I'm like. If you're geeked out on clothing, you might know, yeah, the lapel on his jacket was
Hmm.
like 2.5 inches at the top. Like this kind of stuff they sold in
Or he had a pinky
2010.
ring on or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how
If
do
you're
you know that?
Italian, yeah.
Because you just love maybe you make suits and
Yeah.
that I can tell you exactly what kind of suit he was wearing. Well, okay, well,
Yeah.
great. You bring in your personal history and you end
Yeah.
up focusing on those things that are coming from your personal history. So
Hmm.
I started doing a forensic statement analysis on Mark. And the reason why I picked Mark, and you use different
Yeah.
colors, kind of like you'll see in Bible studies anyway. But
Yeah.
what I'm looking for are deception indicators, compression of time, expansion of time, the use of personal pronouns,
Hmm.
stuff like arbitrary words or words that if I could have said it some other way, why did I say it this way? I'm looking
Hmm.
also for any description involving Peter, because Papias, an early church bishop,
Yeah.
said that Peter was the source of Mark's gospel. So I
Hmm.
thought, is that true? If that's true, there should be something uniquely Peterish about
Hmm.
Mark's gospel. So I started doing a forensic statement analysis on Mark, and I wrote about it in a book called Cold Case Christianity. In that book, I just talk about like what is the difference. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's how this all started for me, and it ended up being something that got me to a place where I call belief that
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
Well,
I
just
think
for
these
our
are
listeners,
probably
what it means though is when you say gospel, this is four witnesses' testimonies about Jesus:
yes,
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, generally the same, they think, and then obviously John. But you were reading
right,
like a crime scene, like a case. I'm gonna go sit with
right.
these four witnesses. What did you see?
So two of these
Thousands.
are
Yeah.
attributed to people who said they were eyewitnesses, Matthew and John. But the
Mm-hmm.
other two, Mark and Luke, are written by people who say that they had, well, Luke says he has access to the eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
And he wrote 2 volumes, Luke and the book of
Book
Acts.
of Acts.
And Acts, he actually slips into first person at several chapters of the book of Acts. He's in first
Mm-hmm.
person because he's with Paul, and then they separate, and then he's back and with Paul again. So he slips into first person. So clearly he knew the people that Paul knew,
Yeah.
but then he's interviewing those people to write his gospel.
So he's
Now,
great for
Mark,
your
according,
line of work. Yeah.
yeah, and Mark, according to Papias, is writing it at the feet of Peter in Rome. Okay, so if that's the case, we should have
Mm-hmm.
some form of eyewitness observations being recorded in
Mm.
all four gospels,
Mm.
and they were different. Listen, I say this all the time. When I get called out to a homicide, the first thing I tell the dispatcher is have the police officers on the scene
Yep.
separate the eyewitnesses until I get there.
Yeah.
Because if you don't separate them, they'll tell you one story over and over and over again. But if you separate them, you'll get different stories
And
that
you
at
want
first
that,
you might
right?
think are contradictory, but it turns out this is the nature of eyewitness testimony.
Because if I'm sitting in the cop car with my four friends and we, robbed grandma's house, someone said, just tell them this. It's the same where you can't pick up on the discrepancies. So what you're saying for maybe even atheists, agnostics, family members of mine is you wanted these four testimonies of
Yes.
Jesus to, as a detective, challenge, disprove. Well, what did you find when you read there was two angels, but then there was only one angel?
Right,
What were the
right.
things
Why
that
is
were
that? What's that
contradictory?
difference? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I can